It's winning. To be full enough.
We should start figuring that out.
Hey, how are you? I'm all right. It's good. Thanks for asking. Are we? I think we're almost ready. I'm just waiting a couple of things. Get some back to this point. Ms. Johnson, are we ready?
It's your seat.
Yeah. It's supposed to be. All right. We want to welcome all of you from the media, friends and soldiers, fellow soldiers and comrades who have gathered here today for this very important and historic occasion. This coalition, the Why We Can't Wait coalition, has come together to do something unprecedented in history on this White House lawn. And we will talk about exactly what that is and get a full description of it. We have the gardener here, the project manager here. You all will have an opportunity to speak with some of them, as well as some of us, and other members of our coalition are here. Fundamentally, we are here because of the demand for the implementation of H.R. 40, which is a commission to study reparations proposals for African Americans here in America as a result of the period of enslavement and the other periods that followed. In fact, the vestiges, we have always liked to say, Adjoa, the vestiges of the period of enslavement. All of the things, all of enslavement's evil offspring, from lynchings to land loss to police violence, mass incarceration, Jim Crow, all of the above. And so I will just state the obvious. This is a reparations garden, an H.R. 40 reparations garden in the colors of red, black, and green, the colors of the Pan-African flag. We thought it important to build this garden, to have this garden built during Juneteenth, as the nation for the first time is celebrating a new national holiday recognizing the time in Galveston, Texas in 1865, when those who were enslaved people in Galveston first learned of their emancipation and their freedom. For those of us in the coalition, there still is much more that needs to be done before we can celebrate. We will not be able to have a full celebration until H.R. 40 is implemented, either through passage in Congress or as symbolized today via executive order by the President of the United States. That appeal has been made, but at the end of the day, Democrats control both houses of Congress and the White House. And so it is up to them. Race to the finish line. Whoever can do it first. We want the H.R. 40 Commission established and set up. And so with that, we're going to hear from several very distinguished members of the Why We Can't Wait coalition. First, we will bring forward our sister who has a long, cumulative portfolio of work in this struggle. Today she is representing the Reparations Education Project. Dear sister, please welcome Nikichi Taifa.
The 16th of June will be slavery's doom. At the stroke of midnight, the blacks will strike. Those were essentially the words spoken on this day, June 16th, exactly 200 years ago, in the year 1822, by freedom fighter Denmark Vesey. The 16th of June will be slavery's doom. At the stroke of midnight, the blacks will strike. Unfortunately, the blacks were unable to strike as the rebellion was quashed. Vesey was hung, and chattel slavery continued for another 43 long years. Today, on the ellipse of the south lawn of the White House, we come to resurrect the demands of Denmark Vesey and all of our ancestors for freedom. Freedom from the vestiges and living legacies of the chattel enslavement period. Freedom from the vestiges and living legacies of the black codes, the chain gangs, the convict leasing system, the sharecropping, the Jim Crow apartheid, the lynchings, the mass destruction of black towns, the evisceration of the right to vote, the redlining, the black-white wealth gap, the inferior and false education, the health disparities, the police killings, the mass incarceration, the denial of the right to self-determination. Today, on the ellipse of the south lawn of the White House, we come to hold the federal government accountable for its role in this crime against humanity. The U.S. Constitution enshrined the continued importation of kidnapped persons, relegated human beings to 3/5 of a white person, and most egregious, mandated that no enslaved person, even if he or she had reached a free state, none of us was safe. And it was the duty, the legal obligation, the constitutional responsibility of every single white man, woman, or child to track down the enslaved person and deliver her up to the U.S. government under the Constitution's Fugitive Slave Act. So that is why we're here today, on the grounds of the White House, surrounded by the red, black, and the green symbol of freedom, to pronounce to the President of the United States that black people can wait no longer for reparatory justice, that the immediate signing of an executive order bringing H.R. 40 and S-40 into existence is the right thing to do on this day, at this time, to fulfill his promise to black voters, to support a study of reparations to tackle systemic racism and the continuing impacts of slavery. Thank you. I'm attorney Nikichi Taifa of the Reparation Education Project. Back to you, Reverend Mark.
Thank you, Sister Nikichi. As I mentioned the term vestiges earlier, that term became part of the vernacular of this movement when our sister here, our next speaker, chaired the NCOBRA, N-C-O-B-R-A, and COBRA stands for the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. That is the legacy organization for H.R. 40 and reparations. She chaired the NCOBRA Litigation Commission, of which I was a member. And one of the cases we made was that it's not enough to stop when we discuss reparations in 1865. Some people want to do that, because they'll even make an argument they're doing that to save the government some money. I'm not sure why people want to do that. But anyway, what business of that is theirs. But Adwoa made the compelling argument in that litigation commission, and that term vestiges has been in our vernacular since then because of her, that the vestiges are important, and that right now the toll is still rising, the clock is still ticking on injustices and harms to African Americans and all people of African descent and ancestry flowing from America's original sin, enslavement. And so here to represent NCOBRA today is attorney Adwoa Ayatoro.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mark. I'm very appreciative of being invited to be a part of this very important press conference. It's time. We all know it's time. In fact, it's past time. So we have to push. We have to persuade. We have to urge President Biden to do, hate to use this term, do the right thing. We have to. He has to. So I'm speaking, as Reverend Mark said, I'm the founding co-chair of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, in COBRA. And I'm also speaking on behalf of one of the three co-founding organizations of NCOBRA, the National Conference of Black Warriors. History has demonstrated that the U.S. Congress has dragged its feet on fully acknowledging and making reparations for the horrific crime against humanity that was the enslavement of African peoples and its continuing vestiges. Visible in the U.S. Congress, despite those in Congress who act consistent with the charge of ending slavery and its legacies and vestiges, has continually compromised the human and civil rights of Black people, from the 3/5 clause to the refusal to grant equal civil rights to Black people until the civil rights bills in the 60s, and many placing impediments to equal and full citizenship by supporting, among other things, voter suppression laws. The primary impact of those laws being to dilute, silence Black voices in the electorate. President Biden, we ask you to be true to your support for racial justice and to ending racial oppression, especially that which is embedded in this country's historic crime of enslavement, the tentacles of which are with us today, the vestiges. We see them every day. National Urban League does a report. We see it reflected in those reports. Every indicia of well-being, we're at the bottom. And every indicia that says our lives are alienated, we're at the top.
I apologize. Security, there's a security issue, is that correct? They're clearing their lips?
Yes.
Where is that coming from? It's clearing? So what are the instructions? Everybody leaves their equipment? Okay, everybody will retire to Constitution Avenue and then we'll be brought back in. They need to do a security sweep. Unfortunately, this happens where we are. So please head in that direction and we'll come back.
You take our stuff or leave it?
No, leave it. You can leave your equipment. You can leave it. Unless you don't trust them, but the police are just going to do a thing.
Don't say that to a Black person.
I know that's right.
But why are they not moving?
No, she's went over there told them.
Okay.
Nothing will get touched. They'll make sure that nothing gets touched.
They'll make sure nothing gets touched. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
No, my worry is tipping over.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Hold it. Hey. I know.
Prophet Jeremiah, speaking for God, they have treated the wounds of my people carelessly, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. They acted shamefully. They committed abomination, yet they were not ashamed. They did not know how to blush. Therefore, I shall fall among those who fall. At the time that I punish them, they shall be overthrown. Until we reckon with our past, our future is fragile. The commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans by an executive order by President Joseph Robinette Biden will be a step towards making more just future for all of us. The work of this commission will codify the truth, and we will then be on the right path to then being we, the people. We can't wait, and we want to be part of the we, the people. We need it now.
Why say that you can't?
Yes, we can say that's hyperbolic. Like we can say we can't wait, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna wait. But what's gonna happen in the waiting is what we're dealing with right now with the January 6th insurrection, with the killing of people again, up to and including these children in Uvalde. We are now preparing for a violent summer based on hatred, racism, and not a resurgence, but an entire of white supremacists who are basing what they do on the lie that this is a democracy and that they are the purveyors of truth. That's why we can't wait. Our lives are in danger. We're not fighting for our freedoms. We're continuing to fight for the actual right to fight for our freedoms.
Yes, I'm the president of the BLM 757 out of Hampton, Virginia, where everything started in 1619. I thank y'all for y'all work and y'all's efforts. One of the reasons why we can't move forward is not even a presidential thing. It's Congress people. They won't sign off on HR 40, which studies what reparations would look like. So if you have a congressman in your area, no matter what red or blue, and they're not voting on HR 40, HR 40 studies what reparations would look like. They won't even get us to that point to see what it would look like. So we're still stuck there. So we need everybody to pressure their congressmen. My congressman is Bobby Scott and Elaine Loria. If they're not certifying HR 40, which is the study of reparations, they're just doing us wrong. 1619 to 1865, we are free-ish. Thank y'all for your work. Thank you.
Can I have you spell your name?
Yes, Reverend Andrea, AUNDREIA, last name Alexander, ALEXANDER. I'm an Associate General Secretary for Action and Advocacy with the National Council of Churches. I'm from right here in DC. Thank you.
You good?
That was great.
You got what you need.
Two remarks and her.
You got what you need? We're good. Okay. Folks, those of you.
What do you think? Okay.
I'm gonna get everybody. I thought Dreesen was gonna close it out. We changing the order now. I'm it goes out to Amanda and then free. Okay. Folks, those of you joining us on the live stream, you saw what happened earlier. We were moved out because of a security issue. It was very questionable in terms of the timing of that during our press conference as we were revealing our reparations guard. We're going to hear now from our dear sister, Amanda from Color of Change, one of our allies in the Why We Can't Wait coalition. And we all know Color of Change as being one of our leading organizations that is organizing the struggle and keeping us all connected online. Very powerful force. Amanda, please. Amanda Jackson.
Sure. Thanks, Rev. Hey, folks. Hi. First, I'd like to thank our members at Color of Change, the millions of members that have been plugged in and engaged in this issue since day one, and the many activists from around the country who are endlessly committed and tirelessly working to confront the modern day impacts of slavery. We are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder here with our partners and dozens of other human rights activists and racial justice advocates, calling for the advancement of the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for the African Americans Act. The stakes could not be higher. Under the guise of critical race theory, state leaders are actively censoring the truth about Black history and U.S. history. If this country ever wants to move past its history and present reality of racial stratification, we must examine how slavery and discrimination has permeated American institutions, often showing up as structural racism and white supremacy. Reparation bills have been introduced for 30 years, but we cannot wait any longer. An established commission would investigate not only the legacy of slavery and ongoing harms, but also come up with concrete proposals for redress and repair. We know how difficult it is for this country to reckon with its past, its history. As we approach the anniversary with Juneteenth, this is the first time in our country's history it will be recognized as a federal holiday officially, even though last year it became official. We have an opportunity to move beyond acknowledgments, to move beyond talk, and to actually get something, because the real life cost of racism and white supremacy is harming Black people in a way that we just cannot wait for repair and repair. Reparations is the strongest tool to move justice forward. We are not asking for charity or apologies. We want structural change that makes amends in measurable ways. We must ensure that our communities, Black communities, receive the justice, the safety, the stability that they are owed and in the years to come. And we need legal action in order to move closer to a system that defends the civil rights of all Americans. Thank you, and like we say at Color of Change, until justice is made.
All right, we thank Amanda and Color of Change. Next now, one of our leading, if not our leading partner organization, who has facilitated this whole piece and this garden. And those of you watching, we're going to give you an opportunity to walk back in with us when we're done so you can see the garden up close. But now we're going to hear from Human Rights Watch. We have been talking about doing something in this space for some time. And it was when our sister Dreesen came back to Human Rights Watch, we were actually able to get things going and whatnot. And so we want to hear now from Dreesen Heath of Human Rights Watch to talk about our reparations garden.
Thank you.
Switching a bit over. Thank you.
So here we are outside of the White House. They tried to shut us down. They tried to stop us. They tried to shut us up. They tried to do this last year with the Juneteenth holiday at the height of the reparations movement, passing a symbolic measure. We're used to this. And so we will not be moved by the inaction. And that's why we're here today. We're here today standing on the shoulders of so many whose names were never written or recorded in history, who never made it through the Middle Passage, and whose livelihoods were stripped and whose dignity denied. We are also standing in front of this White House, built by enslaved labor, for slavery, to provide structure to our federal government that continues to undermine and suppress Black people today. Enslaved people built that White House. Let me say that again. They were rented from their white masters and slave owners by the federal government to build this structure. That type of economic exploitation continues on to this day. Because of the lack of will of Congress to pass H.R. 40 and S-40, despite having the record amount of support, co-sponsors, momentum in this country, the lack of will, not just political will, but moral will to move this bill allows us to be here today calling on the president to make good on his promise to study reparations for the legacy of enslavement in particular. Here we are at every sector, private sector, academic institutions, college institutions, banking institutions, federal government waiting while the state and local governments are advancing reparations measures across the country. There is no reason why the federal government should continue to stall. If the federal government can recognize the significance of Juneteenth, then they can recognize what needs to comprehensively be repaired. And so that's why we're here today. Our coalition was formed, our Why We Can't Wait coalition was formed out of urgency of the converging racialized economic and social crises of today. And in 2020, we were able to build to this moment, to this very moment where we have the most momentum on reparations that we've ever had in the history of this country.
And so why stall now? Why wait? We can't wait. We have all experienced the human cost of malpractice. If equity policies were enough to advance us and to restore the Black community and make us whole again, then we would not be experiencing a racial wealth gap as loud as and as large as it was in the 1960s when landline legislation was passed. When we talk about reparations, we are talking about holistic remedy. It's not one thing or the other. No one remedy will be added. In our has to determine what that repair looks like. From the return of property to the return of artifacts to psychological and rehabilitative measures to official apologies and financial compensation. We have never received an institutionalized response and apology to racial subjugation in this country. There is no racial reckoning without reparations. And here we are today. We must move beyond symbolism and on to changing the country. And that is through a reparations executive order that Biden can do by Juneteenth. We want to end further exploitation of our most marginalized communities. I stand with my community on the shoulders of my ancestors to be here today in coalition for reparations now.
Where are Joel and Mark? Okay. So a little later, we'll introduce you to the people who actually designed this garden and laid it out. If humankind's original sin occurred in the Garden of Eden, this garden of reparations addresses America's original sin of slavery. And so we're going to walk back to the garden together. Those of you watching, you can follow us into the garden. I want to do one more introduction. Come in, my brother. And he's going to give us some music to carry us back into the garden. We are happy to announce that we have an official HR 40 Reparations Now song. Common Hymnal, a very popular spiritual group, came together to do this. You all can check them out on Instagram, Common Hymnal. The song may not be posted yet, but the link to the song, which is live now, is hr40song.com/reparationsnow. hr40song.com/reparationsnow. Everybody got that? So you all watch, you can go into that right now and hear and see the song. As we walk back in, we're going to march back into the song. Everybody okay with that? And if you don't mind, Watson, you will continue to follow us and we'll go in. And then when we get in, those of you watching who were here earlier and we got cut off, it is, peculiar. We got cut off in the middle of our first press conference, got pushed out. And then when the second one started, they decided, you can come back in. So it's, it's up, down, topsy-turvy. It's like a seesaw. But that's what happened. So brother Nabil Ince of Common Hymnal, our brother, by the way, is a musician. He's the keyboardist, the pianist, the organist, and he's the rapper on our song HR 40 Reparations Now. Don't forget hr40song.com/reparations now. Give us some, brother, while we march in. Lead us on in. You stay close to the camera so we can pick you up. Red, black, and green, y'all. Red, black, green. It's our HR 40 reparations guard.
All we got was segregated justice and infrastructure. We don't want to make the praise.
So everybody, that's our reparations song. We invite you to go to hr40song.com/reparations now. I want to thank everyone who participated. Sorry for the hiccup earlier, but it wasn't our fault. The White House shut us down. But the guard is here. It will continue to be here through Juneteenth weekend. And thank you all for joining us. We thank Roland Unfiltered and Make It Plain for airing our live stream today. Thank you. So we got to figure. I got to turn this off. Can't see anything. Can't see it. Thank you, Water, for sure.